OPSEU union leaders or others are going to be in charge, run the province, can bully, can dictate, can say, do this, do it, play it our way or the highway. That would be the worst image for business investment around the world.
From Global News, this is Focus Ontario with Robert Fisher.
Hello again, and welcome to Focus Ontario. It has been quite a week at Queen's Park. The House returned, and so did the violence. An ugly confrontation between striking OPSEU workers and the OPP on Monday. By Wednesday, the government had agreed to order a public inquiry. What do the images of that Monday incident, of the ongoing battle between the government and Labour, mean to Ontario? Is the province being divided between the haves and have-nots, between the affecteds and the unaffecteds by the common sense revolution? To answer those questions and others, we're joined this week by the man leading the revolution. He is the Premier, Mike Harris. Our guest panelist this week is Paula Todd of the Toronto Star. The Premier and an update on the common sense revolution when Focus Ontario continues. And welcome back to Focus Ontario, and Premier, welcome back to the program. Always good to have you here. The #1 requested guest in this program, incidentally.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. I remember the days when the #1 request was me trying to get on your show, so I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you very much. Let me begin with a very serious subject, one that I know you and members of your government are concerned about, the trouble on Monday at Queen's Park, that ugly incident. Can you tell me why the government has decided there's a need for a public inquiry?
Well, we don't ever want to see a repeat of what happened on Monday. I think there is allegations have been made against the police. Allegations have been made against illegal picketing action against the OPSEU strikers or whoever was in helping them on the lines that day. The opposition, I think, have indicated, and all parties indicated, like to get to the bottom of it. And I think the best way to do that is an arm's length, full and open public inquiry. And so we've all three parties agreed we'll proceed in this direction.
In an inquiry that I think you want to start as quickly as possible, no delay whatsoever.
Yes, to be honest, there were two ways to do this. There was a legislative committee which could subpoena witnesses and all party, full and open. The opposition parties didn't like that. The advantage of it, it's quicker, it's faster. The disadvantage from the opposition point of view is we have a majority number of members on the committee. And I guess experience being as it is over the last 15 years, they don't trust majority governments, including their own as
well, you never did,
the practice. So yeah. We understand that. So the second choice is a judicial inquiry handled that way. And either way, we'll get the facts out. This one may take a little bit longer, but our goal, and I think everybody's goal, is as soon as possible, get it up and running, and let's get the facts out.
I mean, is there any reason why this couldn't start next week, getting to the bottom of this?
Not as far as I'm concerned, but I'm not a lawyer, and a judicial inquiry will be done by a judge, most likely, I would think, and it's up now to the Attorney General's office, and you get into the rules of the court, and I've always been a little more, let's just use common sense and get on with this and never mind the technicalities. But you can't do that in a judicial inquiry. So it may take a little longer, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be quickly.
Well, let's bring the only lawyer here tonight, Paula.
I think you can get it going by next week, actually.
Maybe we'll appoint you, Paula.
No, I'm busy, though. I'm busy here with you. One of the things I think that will forever remain in Ontario's mind is that fracas on Monday. Very violent, unlike anything that we've ever seen in this province before. Some of the allegations that continue to swirl are that you're part of the problem, that some of the language you used early on, you talked about, any sort of concession to labor at this point would be retreat for the government. You talked about the right to strike, democratically won as a toy that you thought the union wants to play with. This seems to have hardened the sentiment of some of those workers who are out on the street. Take responsibility for ratcheting up the temperature?
Well, no, we've tried to be very fair and reasonable. I think Dave Johnson has been fair and reasonable. The only place I've drawn the line is saying that you know, we can't be intimidated. You can't expect us because some union leader says, you know, things are going to get tough here unless you know, it's our way or the highway type of thing. And so what we have tried to do in the face of this is to say we are going to carry on in as fair and a reasonable way as we can, getting the best deal we can for the taxpayers of Ontario. So I don't believe that if you compare my statements or Dave Johnson's statements on behalf of the government with Gord Wilson's or with Leah Castleman's or with other union leaders, that you are going to find anywhere near the kind of rhetoric that ought to inflame the situation from me.
Just to be fair, though, the comments that Mr. Wilson made recently, and I think we're probably all in agreement that they were out of line, came very late in this dispute. And, you know, in terms of dealing as fairly as possible with your employees, what, for example, is the point of stripping away from your employees successor rights, the right to contract protections when you sell off parts of the government that employees in the private sector continue to enjoy? Can you imagine how that sort of hardened the stakes going into the dispute?
No, I can't, as a matter of fact. These are rights that no other public sector employees have all across Canada. And they were given by the NDP. They were given in a time when nobody ever thought government would ever lay anybody off. We're different. We're not like the private sector. In a day where nobody envisioned, I guess, we'd have this $10 billion deficit and we'd have to downsize. So what we are trying and attempting to do, and as Dave Johnson's indicated at the negotiating table, is to negotiate fair and reasonable, far in excess, I think, of the average of the private sector, rights for those workers who we may not be able to take care of by attrition or by bumping or retraining into other jobs.
Mr. Premier, let me just pick up on something you and Paula were just talking about a moment ago, comments by Gord Wilson, a very strongly worded, provocative letter addressed to the Ontario Provincial Police and to your Solicitor General, Bob Runciman, suggesting that in future, after what happened on Monday, that violence will be met with violence. You haven't commented really publicly on what you think this means in the whole scheme of things, what's happened since Monday. I'd be interested in your response to Mr. Wilson's letter, the tone of it particularly.
Well, I don't think the tone is worthy of response. I think this is part of the problem, that it reminds me of the old 30s style management union negotiations. Who has the most clout? Who has the biggest stick? I think last September, Sid Ryan, who's head of CUPE, said in bargaining, it's he who holds the biggest stick. This is important to us. He was talking about social contract and all the contracts coming up at once. And I think this is the wrong attitude. And I don't think you want to be talking about matching violence with violence. You want to talk about matching adult behavior with adult behavior. And I thought Bob Rae said something very telling when he was preparing to step down. He said, it's time labor in Ontario and labor leaders understood there is a global competitiveness, there is the 21st century upon us, and it is time for us to move towards the 21st century in how we act as labor leaders, as government leaders, as managers, as employers. And so I would prefer to all of us move to that plane instead of the old style rhetoric.
Conversely, though, the biggest sticks on Monday were carried by the provincial police. And when I spoke to the commander of the unit in charge of what happened on Monday, he said he was proud of what his men and women had done, and he would do it exactly the same way again. Well, if Mr. Wilson's comments are not helpful, surely you would agree, as someone who wants to see peace and not a recurrence of what happened on Monday, that those remarks from the provincial police are not helpful either.
I don't think any of these comments are particular. That's why we want a public inquiry. Let's find out what happened, what provoked who and the action, and was the action appropriate. And surely there must be better ways to handle this. I mean, I've heard people say, you know, for a mother trying to visit a son, say, in a psychiatric hospital who can't get through, she would say there was a pretty big stick preventing me from visiting my child. A secretary trying to get to work, obligated to go to work, perhaps under essential services agreement, would say, you know, I saw a pretty big stick, if that's what you want to call it, preventing me from getting to work. And so, but you see, we'll take a look at that. There'll be an inquiry into that. What I would ask Mr. Wilson and labor leaders to do, and the police and everybody involved, is can't we find a more civilized way of resolving these disputes other than the ongoing rhetoric and finger-pointing and bravado? I think it's passé.
But don't you think one of the things that could help is your Solicitor General, Bob Runciman, has long been known as quite a friend to police, and he was quick off the mark, saying, well, I don't think they've done anything wrong. I mean, these are, as you say, what we need is someone to step back, certainly somebody in his position.
Well, I think you're right. He was countering Lynn McLeod and saying the police were dead wrong, this is terrible, and they're in the wrong. And I guess I would encourage all sides, let's not assess blame here. Let's have the full inquiry, and let's see what comes out of it. And hopefully the net result of it is it doesn't happen again.
Okay, on that note, we'll take a break and be back with more Focus Ontario with the Premier after these messages.
The 60-Minute Tax Break is now available on home video. Co-hosted by Jane Gilbert and Jerry White, the 60-Minute Tax Break is dedicated to helping you build a strong financial foundation. Act now and receive Jerry White's instructional software program, What the Rich Do, detailing the 7 investment principles used by Canada's wealthiest 1%. Order now for only $19.95 plus shipping and handling and applicable taxes. Call 1-800-676-0584. That's 1-800-676-0584.
The Olympic spirit isn't about victory. It isn't about defeat. It's about challenging yourself. That's why Bell created the Spirit of Canada Fund, a program dedicated not to victory, not to defeat, but to showing our kids that with a little help, anything is possible.
Julie, we've been expecting you.
Todd, to reception, please. You have a guest.
Julie,
Hi, Todd.
are you excited? What do you say we go look at your car?
I'd love it. Okay. Is that my car?
This is Julie, and this is her first new car.
This is dandruff. Take a close look, because this could be the last time you see it. If you start using this. Nizoral is a treatment that's different from others you've tried before. It contains a patented ingredient that actually kills fungus, which scientists now know can be a leading cause of dandruff. And it's effective, so you'll only use it once a week. Nizoral. Dandruff's last call.
Welcome back to Focus Ontario. Premier, one of the issues that continues to linger, I guess almost 2 years after your Common Sense Revolution came out and is increasing because we're getting close to our budget, is the commitment on a tax cut. Can we hear from you here tonight that in fact this is an absolute commitment? You'll follow the letter of the Common Sense Revolution? People can expect the morning after the budget to wake up and see you've kept your promise?
Yes, I think people will say we kept our promise after the budget. I find it ironic too. We have some people now, and certainly the Liberals and the NDP, who are saying we don't want a tax cut. Don't cut taxes. This is quite different from 200 years of history of taxes, and I find it very, very strange to be truthful about it. Some are linking tax cuts with spending cuts. We don't see any relationship between the two at all. We believe we have an obligation to do a number of things. Balance the books, get our spending under control, deal with this $1 million an hour more that we're spending than we're taking in, and we can only do that on the spending side. Get the best value that we can in our services. You have to do that whether you got a deficit or not anyway. Surely that's what we're elected to do. And then we see a second role for us, and that is to stimulate the economy, to get job creation going. We freely admit we can't do it in the public sector. We can't hire more people in the public sector. In fact, we're going to be, at the end of the day, less.
Heck of a lot less.
The federal government has acknowledged that. School boards are acknowledging that. We've just gone too far in the public sector. So we've only got one avenue left, or one other place where we can get jobs. That's in the private sector. Now, what do we have to do to stimulate jobs in the private sector? A number of things, including cutting taxes, we believe.
But Premier, with respect, all you have to do is look at a first-year university economics textbook to see the relationship between a tax cut and spending cuts. You told us coming into power that you were only going to have to cut, a certain amount of money out of the budget, out of the spending, $6 billion. Already that's up to $8 billion. Even members of your own legislative committee are advising you that we're going to have to look at least another $2 billion more in cuts in order to afford the money that we lose when we lower taxes. I think what we're hearing from the opposition, what we're hearing from the banks, what we're hearing from the bond raiders is that if you attempt, what we're hearing from Premier Ralph Klein is that if you attempt to lower taxes at the same time as you decrease that deficit, you're going to have to cut spending, and that's going to hurt people in this province.
No, they're all wrong.
Tell us why. Tell us why.
Because the tax cut will stimulate the economy, will create more jobs, will create more purchases, will give us more money in sales taxes, will get more people working, will at the end of the day give us the revenue back that you might lose with a rate cut. So we're not saying we want fewer dollars as a government. We're saying that we would like the rates lowered, and we would like more people working, and we would like increased consumer spending, increased economic activity, and through that way, we'll get the same amount of dollars. Now, the reverse happened, you see, in Ontario under Bob Rae. In his first budget, he hiked tax rates by about $1 billion, and he got $1 billion less. He didn't get the money by hiking the rates. He got more money from some people, but then he threw others out of work, and we had more unemployment and whatnot.
So are you telling us there will be no more spending cuts because we don't need to do it?
Right, we're quite frankly pretty much spot on, which this was White Robin's words. I better come up with different words. On the common sense revolution, when we felt it would take about $6 billion worth of spending reductions to balance the books, with or without a tax cut, by the way. What happened was when we took office, there were two things different from the assumptions that we had going into the election. One was the revenue projections were about $2 billion less than the NDP said. We had accounted for that, actually. We felt they were misrepresenting that, and so that wasn't what bothered us. But the spending was about $2 billion higher than they told us. And so in July, the Minister of Finance made an immediate correction of $2 billion of cuts, and they weren't without some pain. They were fast, they were across the board, they were about 2.5%, as you recall, and they affected a lot of people. But they had to be made, we felt, to get the spending back to where everybody's projections going into the campaign, including ours, had been on. Then in addition to that, we have to cut $6 billion
but that's it. So are you then saying that that's it, $8 billion, and that's it, no more cutting?
I believe that the $2 billion plus the $6 billion, that's our target that we're shooting for, and we're preparing business plans along those bases. Now, listen, something may happen. There may be a downturn in the economy, and there may be an uptick. There may be other factors. It's really tough to predict a year out and 2 years out and 3 years out, and you know what these economic models and projections are. But that's what we based our 1994 Common Sense Revolution, the financial documents on, and that's, quite frankly, pretty much where we're at today.
Okay, on that note, another break. We'll be back with the Premier after these messages.
It's a part of your life. Always has been, always will be. It can give, it can take, open doors, or close them. You can control it, or it can control you. TD, we're here to help make it easier.
Mazda Protege, an outstanding warranty. Sports sedan poise and composure, road and track. Featuring award-winning OptiSpace design. Protege SE at this new low price. Protege.
can't believe you're back so soon. Tell me about it. Knee surgery is not my idea of fun. You in pain? Not now. My doctor gave me Tylenol, extra strength. Boy, Tylenol works on that kind of pain? Here I am.
More than aspirin, more than ibuprofen. From post-surgical pain to headaches, doctors recommend Tylenol the most.
Good run, huh? Yeah, not bad. It's not over.
Oh, man.
Tylenol, the strength you want from the name you trust.
Sunday.
Ready?
Yes,
You sure?
absolutely.
Sometimes the expected can be refreshing. Don't miss Mad About You. Global's Got It at 8 Sunday.
Tell me why I love you like I do.
Emotionally charged, painful revelations, and a shocking event that you will never forget. The season finale, a 2-hour special, Party of 5. Global's Got It, Wednesday at 8.
Welcome back to Focus Ontario. Premier, let me talk about the mood in the province, the mood sort of directed at your government, a perception that this is a bully boy government, that you're going to damn the torpedoes full speed ahead, hell with the opposition complaints and so forth. Is that how you see the common sense revolution, that damn the torpedoes full speed ahead?
No, you know, the common sense revolution was really based upon 4 years of significant consultation, development with policy councils, unlike our party had ever seen before, back at the grassroots and town hall meetings and listening to people, and development of a plan different from the last 10 years in a number of ways. You know, instead of higher taxes, bigger government spending, lower taxes, eliminating the deficits, trying to streamline legislation instead of always responding with every little problem with a new piece of legislation. So I think, you know, there was a lot of consultation went into that. And we're prepared to work cooperatively with people in a fair and reasonable way to implement the agenda. But there are some who flat out don't like the agenda. And so no matter what we do, unless it's their way, somehow or other we're being bullies. And I don't know, you know, I can't respond to that in that way. We can listen, we can consult, we can talk, but we're elected to move in a different direction.
The other word that is not synonymous with this government, you hear it on the street, hear from a lot of people, is compassion. People do not believe that you are the premier of a compassionate government, that you even give a damn about the effects of the agenda. You indicated a moment ago there would be basically no gain without some pain.
Yes.
You know,
it's always easier to spend money. You know, it's always easier to say, look how much I care, I threw money at it. You know, I think one of the things, I think there was a book called The Comfortable Pew. And as I interpret that, it's based upon write a check and you can sleep at night. And quite frankly, that doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it in the province of Ontario. It doesn't give somebody on welfare hope or opportunity of a job or of self-esteem. So I am quite pleased that there are 130,000 people no longer dependent and caught in a cycle of dependency on welfare. So some may not feel that the direction we're going in is as compassionate as throwing more money at it, but quite frankly, I think it is more compassionate.
But, Premier, don't you wonder what happened to those people who are no longer on the welfare rolls? You've said yourself that you haven't met your target for job creation, and you haven't started your workfare program. So don't you worry about the people who are paying in the short term for what you say are going to be the long-term gains?
I know what those people are doing. They're leading more productive lives than they were before, or they're not double-dipping. Many of them are working.
Many of them aren't, though, Premier. Many of them have no longer qualified for welfare. You just sort of sidelined them.
No, if they haven't qualified for welfare, it's because they have other sources of income or they were cheating.
Well, no, because you dropped, no, to be fair, you dropped the rates.
No, I'm not talking about dropping the rates. I'm just talking about 130,000 people at whatever rate are no longer on the welfare rolls. They are looking after themselves by working, or perhaps they were double dipping and they're no longer double dipping.
But in some cases, to be fair, you changed some of the rules, the spouse rules, different rules that meant some people no longer were going to qualify for welfare.
Yeah, because they had more than enough income coming in their situation that they didn't need it. We did change some of those rules to parallel the rest of the country. But I mean, to get back to, what is compassionate? Is it compassionate to spend money you don't have, a $10 billion deficit, to destroy your children's future, to bankrupt the province? And so, we've made changes.
Yeah, you always talk about protecting the future for our children's children, and that makes us all feel very good. But what about today's children? As you cut back in daycare funding, and you cut back on welfare rates, and you cut back on junior kindergarten, what about kids today?
I'm glad you mentioned daycare, because we are today funding 12,500 more child care spaces on a permanent basis than the NDP government did. This is a myth that we have cut back on child care funding. We ended one program, Jobs Ontario, that most thought was a boondoggle, including, I think, many investigative pieces by the Toronto Star. And part of that was there were some child care spaces associated with that. We took those child care spaces and put them into the mainstream of child care. And we spend for children age 1 or 0 to 12, we spend twice per capita what Quebec spends. We spend 12 times per capita what New Brunswick spends. We are the leading province virtually on all of these areas. And so what we're trying to do is find the right balance, be fair, and I hope that we can find more creative ways to fund even more assistance for childcare. This is a priority for our government.
And now you're under attack from the Prime Minister, who talked about an uncivilized, uncaring agenda.
Well, I guess the Prime Minister has these by-elections coming up that he's a little worried about. Maybe after Monday we can get back to, business as usual, and he's got a big deficit problem, so do we. I think we're better working together to solve it.
He wants your cooperation on the GST, for example. You've promised people that you're not going to give new taxes to Ontarians. Is there any way we can ever harmonize the PST and the GST?
And a quick answer.
If it's fair to Ontarians and consumers without overall hiking taxes, we'll explore that. If not, no deal.
Okay, no time. Thank you very much. That's our program for this week. Let me thank our guest, the Premier, Mike Harris. Our guest panelist this week was Paula Todd of the Toronto Star. I'm Robert Fisher. Join me again next week for another edition of Focus Ontario. And I'll be back later this evening with all the day's news on The World Tonight at 11. Until then, good night.